the question from Greece. Now, I said earlier that we will dive into the cloud, and we are lagging behind schedule now. So I'd like to ask Mr. Hochrinner from the University of Applied Sciences to keep his presentation short. He has been a professor here at the University of Applied Sciences for 20 years. He's a legal expert, and he always looks for data from the practical side, because this is a university of applied sciences, so contact to businesses, to industry is essential. Thank you very much for having us here. Welcome. Applied Sciences always looks for networking opportunities with industry. Networking is actually what I will be talking about. So my title may be a little bit misleading. As far as networking is concerned, I'd like to thank the University of Applied Sciences Joanneum for making the lecture hall available to us for this conference. Thank you to the manager of this room, Gabriele Holosch, who provides valuable assistance to us. As far as networking is concerned, I come from the Department for Applied Design Sciences, and we cooperate also with the University of Technology, and we create networks between the students of the two facilities. I think that's what is so important in research. We cooperate, we work together. Knowledge is the only good that becomes more when it is shared. And this is also our slogan, bringing people together. And so the project draft for ascertaining, defining and optimizing the parameters in hail mitigation is a research project that we would like to kick off with as many participants as possible. In 1830, it all started with the railway. In 1835, the Eagle, as it was called, the Eagle railroad was used, and it was still going very, very slowly. And people were afraid that they would go crazy when they were sitting in the railroad carriages because it went so fast. So maybe that's an explanation why everything is going havoc today. Perhaps we have acquired too much speed. So in 1830, cannons were used to shoot at clouds. And then when the engines of the trains became bigger, there was also a change in hail mitigation, but not a drastic one, and it was still not successful. Praying may help sometimes, but it was not really the right means to protect people from hail. And then railroad was electrified, and at this time rockets were used for hail defense. And then at some time the rail jet was introduced in the year 2013, and the first generation of silver iodide was used. So maybe you will ask yourself now, why is he telling us about railway engines? Well, I will explain that in a few minutes. In 2010, the high-speed train was launched, and in 2018, Josef Mündler became the managing chairman of the Hail Mitigation Cooperative, and he reached out to the academic world. Colleague Moosbacher, when we met in his plant, he said to Mr. Mündler, let the professors do the thinking and we will manage it all. Well, that was the approach. It was not so motivating for us, but we realized that there was need for action, and Moosbacher Company, a metalworking company, in the year 2018. So I took my students there, and my students made careers. I stuck with hail mitigation. And then the University of Technology of Graz joined us in our efforts. They also found that hail mitigation is an interesting research topic. I am involved at the national and international scale in integrated studies, in the integrated studies field. And I know from South Africa and other countries that hail mitigation and hail protection is very high up on the agenda. In South Africa, huge areas are covered by hail nets, and South Africa has just one advantage, because that's the sun, the solar radiation, because they have much more sunlight than we have, so they can cover 8 hectares of land with hail nets. At some point, Professor Gössler joined the analytics team. So this is what I wanted to show you with what I've been telling you so far. Our network is growing, and it is growing constantly. And to come back to Mr. Moosbacher, in the year 2010, the first hail generation was introduced, and this was such a leap in development that was comparable to the high-speed train. So at some point in time, the trains became even faster. But let me come back to combustion. The first generation of generators used uncontrolled combustion. So a yellow fire flame came out of the back of the generator, and then when the aircraft was on ground again, the tube was cleaned with a hammer and a chisel, and now we have the new generation. This is what it looks like. You can see it on the right, and if you remember, there was, for heating, there was advertising for energy-saving combustion, where there is no soot particle anymore, and this was also the case for the generation, or for this generation of generators. Well, torches, I'm not going to say anything about them here, but what is it that I want to achieve when I establish a network? Well, I want to understand the process of nucleation, considering the boundary conditions in the cloud. This is something that I want to learn. In Austria, the conditions are completely different as far as temperature is concerned than in Thailand, for example. In Thailand, I think salt is used, this is why temperatures in Thailand are different, so different agents are used to mitigate hail. But all we have is experiential data. We have not really defined or specified the parameters, or not specified them sufficiently. So we want to understand the process of nucleation, considering the boundary conditions in the cloud. This is one topic. Another topic is to determine the most suitable substances or methods in dependence on the prevailing development parameters and the search for alternatives. Because so far, we haven't found anything else that it could be better, but it does not mean that there is that there isn't anything out there that would be more helpful. Another purpose of the cooperation is the investigation of various types of application and atomization. What to use, planes, drones, combustion spraying. All of this will mean a further step in the development of what we have here. This is an area where people have to get together and share their knowledge. And sharing knowledge means augmenting knowledge and creating new knowledge. And this is where I come in. I try to bring people together, to motivate them, to join us, to work on this topic together with us. So maybe somebody will have a weird, outrageous idea, and then suddenly this outrageous idea will meet a next step towards the high-speed train of hail mitigation. And the fourth issue that we focus on is the proof of effectiveness and efficiency in lab and field tests. So Sepp already mentioned that a lab should be established in order to carry out small-scale testing, and then take the next step towards field testing. Then back to 1835. This was a time when new realities were created, and we want to do that now. So at that point, people realized that it is not the cannons that drive away the rain. They realized that the cannons are used to reduce the size of the hailstones. But there are still people who do not know that. If we look back at the beginning of this year, for 3 months now, we haven't had any rain in Austria. So it cannot be the hail mitigation pilots' fault that there is no rain, because they stayed on the ground and did not fly. So what is needed is an openness, and we have to make sure that agriculture does not suffer from environmental conditions. In 1940, Irving Langmuir developed cloud seeding with dry ice. 1915, silver iodide was invented, and then in the 60s, organic crystals were described as nucleating agents, and I am sure my colleague Mr. Gruber is going to tell you more about that. Amino acids were also suggested to be used as nucleating agents in the late 60s, but that's it. There was not much more that was written about it. It was not a popular topic. I grew up in Bavaria, so I am here in exile in Austria, and I remember the year 1984 quite well. This was the year with the severe hailstorm in Munich, where window panes were destroyed, houses were damaged, cars, of course. So you always knew a car that was standing on the street in 1984 because it had the hailstone impact. So it is now 2022, and it is high time that we optimize the procedures. And this is what I want to do with this presentation here. I want to motivate, I want to inspire people to come on board, to join us in our project to optimize the parameters. So we are looking for these people. Blue here under the looking glass, people who are interested in this topic, who want to join us, who think that they can contribute something. And I don't want to exclude anybody. The weirder the ideas, the more creative the team. Of course, we will also need structures, but the more creative the ideas, the better will be the cohesion within the team, and the more progress we will make. So we are looking for people and institutions who are willing to accompany us on our road towards hail mitigation, and research in hail mitigation. I am the networking guy who wants to bring people together and develop ideas with them. So you can contact, of course, the Syrian Hail Mitigation Cooperative. If you prefer to contact the University of Applied Sciences and myself, I am happy to hear from you. So I'm sorry that there was not so much technical input here. I hope I used my time wisely and I did not overstep the limit. I think networking is very important because bringing people together is much more beneficial than driving them apart, as we can see here at this moment in the east of Europe. So it's decisive to pool expertise and to create something big out of it. It's not much use if everybody sits in their ivory tower and just works for him or herself and does not share his or her knowledge. Yes, you're right. Research is important and bringing people together. Railroad development is a good example. It started with logs that were fired. Then there was coal and then there was electricity. Or look at the cars. You need the painting. You need the electronics. You need the tires, the rubber, the glass, the metal, all of these different trades that work together in order to create a car. So this is something that I would like to see also in the field of hail mitigation. So maybe create developments by working together. And you said that people should be open-minded, that you would welcome disruptive ideas. And maybe it's the amino acids, maybe it's something completely different. So michael.kerner@gmx.at for questions. Mr. Mosbacher, who was mentioned several times, he's here in the audience, and I would like to ask him to please